Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very exciting topic on the importance of coaching and mentoring. I'm Lori DeToro, and we are happy to have Joe Anderson with us today to talk about this topic. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and presenting for us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. While we're letting people join the webinar, give everybody just a few minutes to get logged in. I want to ask you a question. You know, you're going to be talking about the benefits and the importance and the differences of coaching and mentoring, but who do you think most needs to use coaching and mentoring who may not be doing it?
Everyone. So
Short answer.
You know, given knowing what I know now and having had good mentors in my life, I realized that I wouldn't be where I am today without it. And so I think everyone can benefit from it. Everyone has something to learn. Everyone can get better at things, and it's always good to get a different perspective to help your growth. And so, and it doesn't matter what your position is, what your title is, anything like that, you can always learn. And I think we do it naturally. We take on certain figureheads and kind of see them in a way as a coach or mentor, although we maybe never personally met them, but we read their books or we watch their videos and those types of things. So I think we do it subconsciously anyway, because it's how we learn.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter what your title or where you are, you know, in life. So.
And I guess conversely, everyone has something they could coach on or mentor someone else for too, to share their knowledge.
Of course. We're all at different levels in growth and maturity. And so there's always something that we can teach other people, right? Whether you're, you know, new to a job, you still bring a certain level of experience and life lessons, right?
Right.
That come along with that. And so there's always a level of influence for you on others in doing so. And so, yeah, for sure. You can both
Great.
be one and be the participant within one.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for answering that question. We'll get started. Before we kick off the presentation, I want to remind everyone that the Seal Connect Classroom is a series of educational webinars that we at SEPCO present once a month. We have our experts who talk, but we also have wonderful experts in the industry like Joe who come and participate with us, so we're appreciative of that. If you'd like more reliability content in your inbox, you can go to sepco.com and sign up for the Seal Connect newsletter. That'll notify you of any future webinars as well as other content on Seal Connect. You can join the chat on social media using hashtag Seal Connect. And there is a question section on your sidebar. Please ask questions as Joe is presenting. We'll ask them at the end. Don't forget to do that. I know you're going to have tons of questions. We are recording the webinar, and we will send you the recording and a copy of the slide deck when we're done. Probably sometime tomorrow we'll get that out to you. And if I think of anything else I need to remind you of, we will jump in and talk about it at the end. But for now, Joe, I'm going to pass it off to you to present, and we'll remember to ask your questions, guys.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone that's joined. This topic is near and dear to me, given the fact that I've lived it and been a part of it, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have some level of coaching and mentoring. And so it means a lot to me, and now being able to pass it on to others, you know, again, it's highly important. So to kind of get started, well, let me see here if I can get that. There we go. All right. Our team, so currently we're in a growth phase, scaling up the business, but we've had the privilege of bringing on two of the not only most knowledgeable people in the industry, but two of the nicest people in the industry. And so we're proud of that. Ramesh Gulati, who's the author of Maintenance Best Practices, and Paul Crocker, coming out of the drinking water industry out of Kansas City. We take a lot of pride in that, and they're great additions to the team, and they've added a lot to us. So we're thankful for that. But to get started, I guess to set a clear path, we've got to kind of define what the differences are between a coach and a mentor. And there's a few key differences, although a lot of the things that take place are similar within the instruction piece of that. But basically, a coach, by definition, is one who instructs or trains. So if you think of it in relative to sports, typically the coach, is the one with the playbook of understanding, the strategy and the execution of the strategy. And so I kind of see a coach as the person that helps you develop within your current job role, kind of helping set out the roadmap to gain skills within your current job role, right? Helping you develop a plan, helping you to set you on the right path to get to a certain skill level of your desire, right? Within your current job role. And I guess the delineation between that and a mentor is one that has a lot of experience. He's a trusted advisor, but typically mentoring is to hone a skill set to focus on potential advancement or further advancement within your career. And so the delineating factor, I would say, is a coach is helping you in your current position become great at your current position. And a mentor is more there to help focus on the long-term aspects of your career as a whole, not just the current position that you sit in. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. Again, a lot of the tools and things overlap the way you would do things. But again, one's more of a long-term focus, and the other one kind of sits within the current setting. And so before I get into the importance of coaching and mentoring, I want to share a story. And so for years, right, I started in maintenance in 1996 while I was still in high school. I started in the beef packing industry. So I was going to school full time. I was also playing baseball. And I had started at a beef packing plant, working maintenance. From 1996 to about 2011, 2012, I worked really hard at one, moving up into management. I became a maintenance manager within the beef industry. But at the same time, I wanted to be the best at my job. And that was kind of my focus, is how can I, be the best? But you only know what you know. And so for about 15 years of my career, I honed in on being the best maintenance manager I could possibly be. With that being said, the only thing I knew was reactive maintenance. And so I would say that I was the best reactive maintenance manager you'd ever met. If I had to work 24 hours in a day to keep my plant running, I was working 24 hours a day to keep my plant running. Not understanding the difference between reactivity and proactivity, I only knew what I knew. And one day, it was when I worked in Wisconsin, we had a consultant that was doing a CMMS implementation. We used core Oracle. We were doing some bolt-ons to our Oracle system. But this consultant one day pulled me aside. And me, I'm a hardhead, right? And at that time, I was kind of what I say would be at the top of the learning curve. And that's where you feel like you know it all already, not knowing what you don't know. And so I had a little bit of arrogance about me due to my ego, and typically ego is due to a lack of knowledge. And so he knew that, but he knew how to handle me. And so he kind of pulls me aside and basically, in a nutshell, tells me everything that I'm doing is wrong. And it made me mad. But he was genuine. But my challenge to him basically was, well, if you think you're so good, why don't you teach me? And he said, great. And so from that moment forward, right, he's throwing books in my way, challenging me to read them, kind of opening my mind to what's all out there when it comes to maintenance best practices, understanding certifying bodies and certifications that go about proving how you can become a subject matter expert within a certain genre of maintenance, and just kind of coaching me through what proactivity looks like versus reactivity, how to structure a maintenance department correctly, how to develop a strategy, and just kind of took me along for a ride. And to this day, I consider him a mentor, right? And I can call him up and bounce things off of him and get his advice. And so with that being said, if I would have never had that intervention in my career, I don't know where I would be at today. Would I still be at the maintenance management level, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and possibly sacrificing my marriage and some other things, to the fact that I was really ignorant and that I needed help, right? And a lot of it is, as humans, we have this tendency to not want to ask for help at times, especially if we're at the top of that learning curve where we think we kind of know it all already. And so I would ask that, with this understanding that it's highly important, and it's about having the right people in your life, not just having a coach because it's a check the box situation. But having one that actually cares about you and your well-being and wants you to do well, I think is the key here, for all of this. And so I highly recommend that everyone find one to coach, find a mentor, someone that can help you in your career trajectory and show you the right path. But with that being said, some of the importance of coaching and mentoring is from the mentoree's perspective. It helps you become inspired, right? Once you open your eyes to things that you realize you didn't know, you start to get a hunger and a yearning to learn more. And so you'll invest more time in it. Well, as you do that and become more knowledgeable, you develop more passion. Because the better you get at something, the more you want to do it. And so it helps you become more inspired. Well, on top of that, you're learning new skills, a right way to do things, and your ability to set best practices helps you with the development of the skills and to being inspired. The other piece that's important is typically your mentor doesn't mind holding you accountable. And so, whether you want to hear it or not, right? If you have a coach or a mentor that's more of a yes man, then they really don't care, truly care about your career. These people, a real coach and mentor is going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And so that's important to keep you on the straight path. It also, as you get better at doing things, you'll notice that your performance increases as well as your productivity. One of the skills I had to learn being a reactive type of maintenance manager is time management and understanding how to manage my time correctly and how to spend time with people versus being in meetings and those types of things, and learning how to manage my time well. And so my productivity increased as well as my performance. But it also gives you a sense of purpose. You have a set direction, you know where you're wanting to go, and I think the sense of purpose today in many people is lacking because we don't know where we want to go. And so because we lack direction. And when you have direction, It gives you a sense of purpose. It also helps your confidence as you gain experience doing things and demonstrated experience. It goes a long way to helping your confidence. And then no matter what the naysayers say, because you've lived that life and you've experienced those things, you know them to be true, whether somebody says it doesn't work or, this would never happen or not. And it also helps you with overcoming obstacles. And what you'll find is a lot of the obstacles that we have in our head, what we think are obstacles, are actually perceived. And a lot of it is perceived because we don't understand how to overcome it. And so as you can bounce things off of a coach or mentor, they can help you see how to get through that situation. So some of the benefits. So benefits to the learner, again, increase self-confidence, self-esteem. If you're one that believes in a thing like self-esteem, it can help. It also, with your professional growth and your career growth, it helps tremendously. Like I said, it can set you on a path to where the sky's the limit. How far do you want to advance in your career? Those types of things. It also enhances your skills. It helps you hone in some of your weak areas and potentially turn them into strengths, which is awesome when it comes to growth and development. It also helps you develop good relationship with others, because those around you, when you have that level of confidence, it's a lot easier to nurture and build those relationships. When we lack confidence, a lot of times it's hard to be around people because we're scared that we might say something, or we're worried about what other people think. And so it helps develop those relationships. Also, solving problems and critical thinking, it helps with a lot of that. And it makes you feel a little more worthy and deserving because you've put in the work. And so when you put in the work and you accomplish things, you start to feel like you deserve to be here because you put in the work. It also provides opportunity to advance, to think about further options in your career as you gain more and more skills and more experience. And then, of course, the training and development piece is kind of key there. When it comes to the benefits of the organization, so having an organizations using their monies to invest in their people in areas of like coaching and mentoring, it also, it not only benefits the learner, but it benefits the organization, right? I mean, when an organization shows that they truly care about you as a person, it makes it really difficult for you to want to leave that organization. And so when you're treated well, of course you're going to stay there, which means it increases the retention of the organization. It also, in a lot of ways, can give you competitive advantage, because if you had higher skilled, better performing employees, the business overall is going to do better and become, the competitive powerhouse, basically. And so taking the time to invest in people, the organization will see the benefits. Of course, in higher skill sets, higher knowledge level, your ability to obtain organizational objectives and goals for the company are there. Plus, with succession planning, understanding that if I'm developing this person for future growth, who am I developing to take their position? And so it's thinking through those things as you're investing in someone to become promotable. How do we promote somebody else to take their position? So succession planning is there, and you won't have the gaps like you see in a lot of organizations that are still looking for people. But because again, the expectation in most organizations is that they find a 18-year-old kid with 776 years of experience. And so they still have this open position because no one can fill the demands that are needed from the job description. So, and then, of course, you're truly utilizing your human resources. I don't mean human resources from a department perspective. I mean people as a resource, and getting the most out of them is always a benefit to the organization. Of course, there's better communication, better camaraderie, better morale, a strengthening of the company culture, all these things. As you take the time to care and invest in people, you start to see them things improve within the organization. And so it's huge from an organizational perspective, to hire, coach, or set aside a budget for people to hire coaches and mentors. Some companies offer this within, um, but from my experience, now I haven't seen every organization that exists. I can only tell you from my experience, I haven't seen this done very well in most organizations I've seen. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, because I'm sure there's organizations that do it well. I just haven't seen it. Because typically now it becomes more work for this person instead of having a love for developing people and finding those people that want to be trainable, want to learn, and investing in them. And so there's kind of a catch 22 with just offering these programs within the organization. Um, and so it's just something to keep in mind. And then when you become a coach or mentor yourself, so you take the learnings that you're learning from your coach or mentor. For example, as a maintenance manager, as I was learning this stuff, I took on this role for all of my technicians. So I'm taking the learnings and the things that I'm learning, and I'm passing that knowledge down to the technicians so that we could grow our maintenance department and understand what the right way to do maintenance is. And so the benefits that you gain from that is you learn more, you retain more when you teach things yourself. Okay, so typically they say if you sit in a class, and somebody's lecturing, you'll retain about 10% of what is being talked about. When you teach something, the retention rate is up around 90%. And so the benefits of going out teaching and developing others, is that you actually retain more, and you learn a lot more than if you're just sitting under somebody teaching you at the same time, which is crazy, but it's true. It's awesome. And for me, some of the greatest moments of joy in my life when it comes to my career is when I mentored someone and I got to see them become successful. Um, it's you in a way you feel like a dad proud of their son or daughter for a certain accomplishment, and you're the one crying and they're just excited, right? It's kind of that feeling of being proud that you see potential in someone and they're achieving that potential. Um, when it comes to a career path, to me, there's no greater feeling in the world than to see other people be successful and you having the privilege of being a part of that. And so I love it. And then being honored that someone would allow me, into their life, because that's a hard thing for all of us to do at times. And so, to me, it's an honor to be someone's coach or mentor. And then, of course, I love investing in others. I want to see other people be successful. I want to see them grow. And I'm more than willing to share with them all the knowledge I have. Because most people, when I see their potential, I know they could be better than I'll ever be. And so to see them sprouting and growing and be successful, it's just great. It brings me joy, and I appreciate that. And the thing is that I know most people, even you listening, have the potential to be greater than I will ever be. And so I know that that exists in people. The question is what is your willingness to do the work and to execute, right? And so that's what makes the difference, is just the amount of work that puts in. Some people have to work harder than others to accomplish the same thing. I'm one of those people. Okay. To some people, it seems things come naturally. And I'm one of those that has to work harder. And so my attitude is that every morning I wake up, someone's out working me. And if I want to be the best, I've got to put in the work to be there. And so, and it's the same with you. I know that potential's there. Before we go, I just want to talk about a few pitfalls. Okay, it's just some things to be aware of. Typically, especially if you're in an organization that you wouldn't consider to be a great organization, when we gain knowledge, there's a tendency to become frustrated, because as you're learning, being taught things and that type of thing, you can't seem to get everyone else on board with your excitement. And that's because everyone else is at a different place. And then you're going to understand what the right things to do are and not quite understand how to execute, not quite understand how to influence. The stuff happens. And then you realize there's so many issues in my facility. It's too overwhelming. No one wants to do anything. And all of that is because of your own personal growth. And your expectation is that everyone else is growing with you, but typically you're not communicating that you are growing. It's just the matter that you are growing. And so that expectation that everyone is growing as you are can create frustration when you see that people aren't growing. And so I've seen it, a few times over, and you have to be self-aware of that and be careful of that all of us grow at different paces. And just because you have a lot of knowledge now doesn't mean everyone else does. And that was an issue that I faced, is I gained a lot of knowledge very quickly, and I couldn't understand why no one saw it the way that I saw it. And that can lead to frustration. And I've seen a few other people that I've coached and mentored become the same way. And so again, it's just kind of a watch out, be mindful of it, and understand that not everyone is as dedicated as you. They're not working as hard as you, and they're not trying to be the best as you are. And so their growth is going to be a little slower. But the good thing is that they're growing, and we have to look at it from that perspective, and not the fact that they don't know as much as you, and that can lead to some frustration. And again, when you start becoming aware of how to do things properly, you're going to realize there's an overwhelming mound of issues that exist. But you've got to realize that you can't eat an elephant in a single bite. You've got to take a spoon at a time. And so with that spoonful being, you take, small actions that end up solving a lot of these issues. And a lot of times we want to go and try to eat that whole elephant, and it's just not possible. And so we have to kind of be mindful of those things. And so, but with that, the great news is, if you have a good coach and mentor, and this is addressed up front, and they help you become aware that this can happen, and you're mindful of it, it can be used to your advantage to help develop others around you. And so while you're being coached and mentored, you can also coach a mentor. And so that as people around you are being coached and mentored by you as you're learning, they're going to grow with you. And the goal is to take as many to the top with you as you can, right? And so as long as that's addressed up front and you're aware of that, it can be a great thing. And so again, with that, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And if there are any questions, I'll take those now.
There are a lot of questions, and I'm going to, two are similar, but I think there are nuances, so I'm going to ask them both. The first one is, where do you get the best coach, or where do you look to find someone to coach you?
That's a good question. Some of it is that there are services that are offered. You can pay to have people coach and mentor you. So find a good resource, someone that you trust, someone that you know that will seek to develop you. Again, without turning it into a sales pitch, we do a lot of coaching and mentoring, but again, it depends on what you're looking for, the structure that you're looking for, and those types of things. The other piece is reaching out to people that you know are experts in the industry and just asking, hey, do you mind if I ask you a few questions, and kind of starting that relationship there and you seeking it out, I think is key. The problem is a lot of times we're sitting around waiting for someone to save us and to reach out and grab us. And if you're lucky enough, as I was, right, that can happen. But if you're aware that you need help, then seek it out. Again, it depends on what you're looking for from a coaching and mentoring perspective. But people offer coaching services. And so
that leads nicely into the next question. It'll take me a second because there's a little precursor. So it sounds like you had someone step in and ask you if you wanted them to be your mentor. How would you suggest we find our own mentor without that person stepping up and asking you to be your mentor and wanting to help you? What would you have done?
well, one is I can admit that I was so with a lack of a better term, so ignorant to the fact that I needed help. It took this person stepping in and breaking that mentality. I mean, he wasn't nice about it, I'll put it that way, but it's because of my attitude, and he knew how to handle me. And it was kind of a shock moment for me where I'm like, who is this guy? But if I'm self-aware, then again, I'm going to do some investigation. A good place to start is you just look it up online, depending on the type of coaching you're looking for. You do want to take the time. Most coaches will take time to meet with you to see what your needs are, to try to understand what it is you're looking for. What I've done is I've set up basically kind of templates, because some people want coached around maybe getting a certification. And so we'll do it that way. Some people want it on a specific system or process. So we address it that way. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. But again, it's reach out to authors of your favorite book and see if they can point you in a direction. Most people are willing to answer your emails, at least in our industry. If you're reaching out to some world famous, humongous guru, they might not answer your email, but within our industry, that mentality doesn't exist. We're all here to help. And so we could also offer some alternatives, or maybe know someone that can take something on for what you're looking for.
Yeah, in the reliability industry, I agree. There's a lot of generosity and desire to help. So that's a great point.
Mm.
The next question is, so if you are a coach or a mentor, how do you measure the growth of your followers? What indicator would help you know that the person you're helping is growing?
I guess if you do a formal thing, you would put metrics behind it. But for me, it's you see it in their life.
Right.
So if you're truly doing it right, and you think about where they were before you started versus where they are today, right? Is tomorrow better than today? Um, in a way, I've never put metrics behind things when it comes to this. Um, Outside of in my own head, I'm saying, okay, if this person wants to be promoted, did they get promoted or not? Right.
Right.
Uh, but as far as a metric per se, I don't know. I'm not big on those type of things because they're very subjective. What I care about is how's your relationship at home, right? How's your
Right.
quality of life? Like, are things getting better for you or not? And if they're getting worse, then am I a contributing factor? Maybe something I'm doing is leading them in the wrong direction. So I have to do some self-reflection, which I've never had that, but I'm just saying,
Right.
um, you know, I don't know if I would really measure much outside of that.
Awesome. So next question is, what is or are there any criteria to becoming a coach for someone?
Formally, um, it, it's kind of a depends question. It depends. It depends on what the customer requirement is as well. So, for example, if you're going to be a leadership coach, you should probably have some credentials that back that up. You should probably have some case studies that back that up. Right? If you're going to really formalize it and make money off of it, just strictly off the coaching thing and or the mentoring thing, and monetize it, then you should probably have some credentials to back it up again. But it's going to come back to if somebody wants you to coach them or not, it doesn't matter what your requirements or what your credentials are. So again, it just
Yeah.
kind of depends on the situation. Like if you look up online formal coaching and mentoring, people offer a certification, then you can say you're certified coach. And if you're caught up in only learning from a certified coach versus someone that has experience, then it is what it is. But to me, if I know someone has experience in doing something, I want to learn from them because they've done it and they've lived that life. And so those credentials don't really matter to me.
Right. And so informally within an organization, if you're working with someone and you see that they're, growing and doing well, that might be a good person to be your coach and to go and ask if they want to mentor or coach you.
Right. And if they take the time, and what it boils down to in the end is, does this real person really care about my success?
Right.
So if I have a certification, but I don't really care about your growth, I just give you a bunch of check the box things um, and say, go on your way. Do they really care about me? Because the true potential you have inside of you, the only way to unleash it is to have someone that cares about you help you unleash it. You can do it on your own. It's going to take you 10 times longer, you know. So
Right.
when it comes down to credentials, the only credentials I'm looking at is, does this person have they actually walked the walk, or are they just talking the talk? you know?
Okay.
So,
And so tying into that, so for coaching and mentoring, it doesn't necessarily matter seniority level or level on an organizational chart. It's more about the knowledge that someone has and whether
yeah.
they're even willing and motivated to help someone.
Well, listen, if I came into your organization with the knowledge and skill set that I have now, but I'm hired on day one, and you have another maintenance manager that's been in your organization for 20 years, but they still are very reactive. They don't understand what a maintenance strategy is. They don't understand any of this stuff. Which of those two people would you want coaching? you, right?
Right.
Just because I've put in 20 years somewhere doesn't mean I have the prerequisites required to teach somebody something else, right? Um,
Right.
it's a matter of, what are their actual credentials? What have they done? Are they living that life, or is it just all talk? So I don't think the amount of time somebody's work somewhere really matters, or whether it's from peer to peer or from the top down or whatever. There's been many times where, as a maintenance manager, I'm educating up because within my wheelhouse of expertise, a lot of people above me don't have that experience. And so I'm also managing up, not just down or not just out. Um, and so I think what really matters is does this person add value or not? Have they lived
Right.
that? Right. And so where it is in the organization, who it is, it doesn't really matter, you know.
Great. Well, that is the last of our questions. Thank you again so much, Joe, for joining us. Everyone, you see Joe's contact information and website and everything on the screen. So reach out to him if you have questions or need coaching or mentoring. And want to remind you that our March webinar is how to maximize mechanical seal tracking in your CMMS. So make sure you go register for that so you can join us for that webinar next month. And thanks again for taking the time today to talk with us. And Joe, thank you so much for this amazing presentation.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Everyone have a really great day. You'll get the recording and the slide deck sometime tomorrow. And again, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, since it's 22:22. And have a great Tuesday. And we hope to see you next month for our next webinar.